In this edition of 30 Minutes with Government, NEPA School introduces SBO Level 3 and 4 sports program. Infomedia Foundation St. Martin presents English version of the laws of St. Martin. And St. Martin delegation attends UNESCO conference in Bonaire. These stories ahead on 30 Minutes with Government. Stay tuned.
Family law, criminal law, labor law, corporate law, immigration law, electoral law, tax law, environmental law, inheritance law. The law matters to you. A joint venture between the Department of Communication and the University of St. Martin. The lecture series, The Law Matters to You, is aimed at informing and providing the general public of St. Martin about the different laws. We invite you to visit the official government website at www.stmartingov.org for details on upcoming lectures. The law matters to you, bringing the law closer to the people.
On March 30th, 2017, a service level agreement was signed between the NEPA School and educational consultant Mrs. Joanna Summers for the development of a curriculum for a SBO Level 3 and 4 Associate of Applied Science degree in sports and physical activity and recreation. We were able to sit down and chat with Janelle Richardson, head of the Department of Sports, about this new opportunity for local students. So it was recently announced by the Ministry of Education, Culture, Youth and Sports that in collaboration with the NEPA School, there are plans to introduce a SBO Level 3 and 4 sports program. So can you give us an overview of this project and how it came about?
Yeah, firstly, the NEPA, the program itself is being done by NEPA, so it's initiated by NEPA, and they're doing it in collaboration, or the person that's organizing the actual program itself, she's consulting with the Department of Sports and the Sports Federation in order to determine what the content of the course is going to be. So we, within the department, last year also saw a need for there to be options for young people and persons who may not necessarily want to go off to study in school, and maybe they might want to stay here in St. Martin and do something different. And we thought it necessary also to see that this type of program is created to give them an option to stay here and still study and still be able to get work on the island. So we're happy that NEPA initiated the program, and we're happy to be working with them in the research stage of the creation of the program, so that this gives our young people another opportunity to study and do something that they might love.
Okay, now you mentioned the Federation of Sports and your department are working in the development. Can you be a little more specific in how much input will these two entities have in the final project?
Well, we have a desire to see the program itself developed. So Ms. Somers, who was contracted by the NEPA, she contacted us and said, well, okay, what is the desire of the department, and what is the desire of the St. Martin Sports Olympic Federation? How would the program help out the organizations? And from our perspective within government, what options, because obviously our ministry is education as well, so and sports and youth and culture. So it's important that there are educational options. So we're working with the education department as well with the creation of the curriculum. But from our perspective, it's important to see that, for example, we know that young people can engage in sports. And if maybe they don't necessarily want to go to university to do something academically, they could have an option to study some type of sporting program, whether it's within hospitality or it's as a coach or it's as a personal trainer. These are other options for these kids to be able to engage and be gainfully employed,
Right. So now you mentioned a couple of the options that will be available, physical trainer, sports assistant. Can you go into the different areas that will eventually be available that students may want to choose from?
Well, it's still in the creation stage. So at this point, the department is assisting Ms. Sommer with whatever information we have regarding our policies, our policies, and potential legislation that we're looking to develop, so that we can go into a particular direction in terms of the creation of the actual curriculum itself. but those are the areas that they are focusing on. NEPA decided that those were the 3 areas that they would like to focus on in creating this curriculum. And a lot of the research that she's doing is European-based, American-based, and also using what our norms are here in St. Martin to determine what the content of the course is going to be. So I can't give you specifics about the content of the course because it's still in its development stage. And so once I know that, then I'll be able to obviously give some more information. But at this point, it's in its research phase of development.
Okay, and just to go over in the press release a little bit, it did state the 3 areas that you're looking at are for physical education assistant to assist in the schools or the afternoon schools, sports activity coordinator for the hospitality sectors, for the hotels, and also personal training and coaching. So
the course itself is level 3 and 4, so it can go up to 4 years. And what they're looking to do is have it as inclusive as possible. So I imagine that the first couple of years would be very general, so that you understand about first aid and your understanding about life saving, and one of the other things that they're consulting with us on is what sports are important to us and what are the main sports that we are focusing on as a Department of Sports, so that they can ensure that these sports are covered within the course curriculum, so that whoever comes out of it, for example, a PE teacher doing this course will have a general understanding about our main sports here on the island. So that the idea is to incorporate all of this. And then obviously, if you're trying to get into the hospitality sector, for example, you want to be a dive instructor, or you want to be a lifeguard or something of that nature, activities person within the hospitality sector, then it's important that you know how to do first aid, that you know how to do those basic things within the sport to assist tourists. And then the last one, as a personal trainer, those when you get to that point, then it's about specializing. So from what I understand, over the last 3rd or 4th year, then you'll specialize in these individual areas, so that you can branch off if you want to.
Great. Now, it's great that the students, as you mentioned first, those that may not want to leave the island have the opportunity to pursue this on island. Do you know from your position at the Department of Sports how many, or if there are a great number of students that actually do choose to study sports?
We have a lot of students, obviously, that are able to get a scholarship to go away for school. But there are a lot of students that fall through the cracks. I can't tell you a specific number of those people, but we do know that within the schooling system, there's a lot of kids who choose not to go away for one reason or the other, maybe family or whatever. And sometimes they don't necessarily make the grade for them to be able to get a scholarship. So it's about providing that opportunity. And NEPA is that type of institution that creates other avenues for young people who may not be able to go off for school, because they have different types of programs over there that are not necessarily academically inclined. But I can't, to be honest with you, I can't tell you specifically numbers.
Okay. I do know that we have a number of MOUs with different schools throughout the U.S. I'm not so sure about the Netherlands or Europe, but definitely throughout the U.S. where specific types of programs, more hospitality-based, where we send students.
Yes. Yeah.
Are there any plans to maybe with a sports background reach out to any of these types of schools?
Mr. Aventurin of Study Financing is best to answer that question. But from what I understand, I know that we have, for example, like you're saying, agreements with Tallahassee and schools in New York, and there are definitely agreements with schools in Holland as well, for students to do different types of programming. I've had discussions with Mr. Aventurin about providing more options that are for people who would want to study sports programs, and this is one of the things coming out of those types of discussions I've been having with Mr. Aventurin as well. But besides that, as a department, we are encouraging, for example, athletes who want to get into sports management and that type of stuff to make that known, so that we can kind of assist also with that, and not just about the personal training or the hospitality area, but also going to university level, whether it's in the States or studying in the region. I know that education is connected to some of the schools in Curacao and Aruba, those technical schools to offer these types of programs as well. And I know St. Martiners are in these different programs because NEPA, for example, doesn't offer some of these courses. So it's good that we are now able to offer this type of course here to give young people an option.
The course will be available to, as stated in the release, PSVE, PKL, TKL, and CXC students. I noticed that MAVO, HAVO were not included in that section. Was there any reason for that?
I don't think so. I think the program is open to most people, but the HAVO, MAVO students tend to go into more academically inclined programming, and they tend to get the scholarships to go, whether it's to the States or to Europe. So the idea is to encourage these ones who tend to fall through the cracks, give them another option. And sports is an exciting thing, and young people like to engage in sports. So it'd be good that they can not only play the sport and be good in that particular sport, but also progress more in sports. And whether they're coaching and teaching it or they're assisting tourists in that particular area, it's important that we can give them an option. But I think it will be open to whomever meets the grade, because there will obviously be entry criteria, and if you meet it, then yeah, it will be open to you.
Now, for those persons that may not know Mrs. Zomers, she is the consultant that was hired to put this program together.
Yes.
Can you give us a little bit of background on her specializations and maybe why she was chosen and what she brings to this project?
From what I understand, she did a master's in education and sports, those two areas. I wasn't necessarily involved in the hiring of the consultant, so I'm not sure necessarily of her background, but from having discussions with her, I know she did a master's in education, and I believe she was also a teacher at some point as well. So, but she specializes in curriculum development, and she has an interest in sports as well. So I guess that's the pull for bringing her in as a consultant.
It's Carnival time again, and here are a few tips you need to remember.
If you're out for the evening, turn on lights, rate your television, lock all doors and windows well. Don't display items where they can be seen from the outside. Park your car in a well-lit area and make sure all windows and doors are locked.
This public service announcement was brought to you by the Police Force of St. Martin and the Department of Communication.
On April 12, 2017, President of the Infomedia Foundation, Mr. Keith Franca, in the presence of the Foundation's treasurer, Mr. Eugene James, presented to the government of St. Martin a 5-book volume of the English version of the Laws of St. Martin. Receiving on behalf of the government of
Members of the Council of Ministers, thank you very much for extending the invitation to us to make this presentation this morning. Infomedia Foundation was founded in mid-2015 with its first project to publish the English version in book volumes of the Laws of St. Martin. The project was the brainchild of Mr. Marcel Gums and has now come to fruition through the fine work of the House of Nehesi Publishers and the kind and much appreciated support of India Insurances. We would be remiss if we did not extend appreciation to the Department of Legal Affairs for their review prior to layout and prior to printing. The 5-volume set of books are produced in a convenient size with vision-friendly letter type size for ease of reading. The book set of 5 is an excellent gift or a wonderful addition to any library at home or office. The book set of 5 will be retailing at Van Dorp Edine in Simpson Bay or Madame Estate at the rate of $55 for the 5-volume set. Infomedia has, by design and intent, kept the price affordable to contribute towards the continued development and education of the residents of St. Martin. Infomedia Foundation intends to continue with additional publications for the general education of the population and thereby contributing to the further development of St. Martin. We again wish to extend thanks to Mr. Marcel Gums for his initiative and vision and for enlisting Mr. Eugene James and I in executing this project.
Well, of course, it gives me great pleasure on behalf of the Council of Ministers and Government of St. Martin to accept this first bundle. It says the translation of the official publication of St. Martin, the Laws of St. Martin. It might give someone a wrong impression of what it may be. It is not the Laws of St. Martin, really. It's supposed to be the 38 organic laws of St. Martin. So we have the Constitution, and from the Constitution we have derived 38 organic laws, and these are the laws, the 38 organic laws. We want to commend those who have taken the initiative and those who have brought this project to this point. It is the second time that an initiative has been taken to assist the people of St. Martin, as most of us are versed in English or better versed in English, and it's an English-speaking society. And if you have a disconnect when the laws of a country are in Dutch, but the people function in English and the majority speak English, you have a disconnect between the laws of the country and its citizens. So several years ago, we have with us today as minister, but several years ago as a private citizen, took the initiative, and I'm making reference to Mr. Richard Gibson, our present Minister of Finance, who took the initiative to translate, it was the Civil Code, I think it was the Civil Code or the Civil Code. They translated the first 5 books. That was a private initiative of them, and since then, no further translation of the remaining books had taken place. So we are heading in the right direction. We have a motion of Parliament that government also needs to look at in terms of making English more prominent in our society and in government and in our official publications. So again, on behalf of the Council of Ministers and the people of St. Martin, we wish to thank you for this effort that you have made and for bringing this project to fruition.
Representatives from St. Martin participated in the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization, UNESCO's Phase 2 of the Intangible Cultural Heritage Capacity Building Project for Suriname and the Dutch Caribbean on April 3rd to 7th in Bonaire. The delegation consisted of Ms. Marcelia Henry, Secretary General of the St. Martin National Commission for UNESCO, Mrs. Shireen Alambi-Duncan, Policy Advisor for the Department of Culture, and Ms. Clara Reyes, Co-Director of the National Institute of the Arts. In an interview, Marcelia Henry shared with us the experiences of Bonaire.
Well, I have to say that trip to Bonaire and the training in particular was very good. It was very good in the sense that we were able to understand the process of having your intangible cultural heritage inventorized, meaning that the importance of knowing what your cultural heritage is essential. So that training brought that point back to the forefront. And not only for us to know what it is on St. Martin, but for us to document it, for us to safeguard it, and then for us to share it with the world in general. So one of the trainings in Bonaire required us to start the process of writing a nomination and proposal where we can pick a particular aspect of St. Martin's intangible cultural heritage and say to UNESCO, we think that this is a beautiful, essential, needs to be shared to the world, and therefore it has significance, and therefore we would like it to be recognized as such. So the training provides us with those skills, technical skills that we needed, and it also reconfirmed that what we have started back in 2014 has to be continued.
Okay, according to the press release issued, there were also a few other islands that participated in this work study. Can you elaborate to those islands and describe St. Martin's participation along with those islands and maybe compare maybe where we are to those islands?
Sure. You had the Dutch Caribbean and Suriname, meaning we had Saba, Statia, St. Martin, Aruba, Bonaire, Curacao, and Suriname. There was also representation from the Netherlands, the Cultural Heritage, let's say, training center or institution there. There was a representative there. And then we also had the Jamaica Kingston Cluster Office, UNESCO's office from there, which St. Martin falls under. There was representation from there, from the office. And then our facilitators came from Belize and also from Jamaica. So if I go back to the question as to comparison as to where we are, I can mention that the Saba and Statia, they have started a process where they too have put together a draft inventory, meaning that they have said they have went to the various persons in the community to find out what is Saba and Statia's intangible cultural heritage. So they have that, and St. Martin has done that too. How have we done that? We have had community sessions where we have met with different senior citizens. We have met with the cultural groups. We have had national consultations where we ask these various persons to let us know what is St. Martin's intangible cultural heritage. And then we took it a further step last year where we asked the wider community, where we had this survey and we said, community, this is your opportunity to let us know what you consider to be St. Martin's intangible cultural heritage. And I had to say that we have collected over 230 surveys from the community, thus giving us another element, another confirmation as to the information as what they consider to be St. Martin. As it relates to Saba and Statia, they have not done the survey as yet. And if I were to bring Aruba, Bonaire, and Curacao, they too have not done a survey. So as it relates to St. Martin was the initiator for having this survey being constructed by Ms. Shireen Alambi Duncan and my person. And then we also got the feedback from the facilitators as well. But I can say as it relates to Aruba, Bonaire, and Curacao, just like the two other islands, they too have a draft inventory. So every one of the islands have a draft inventory stating that this is the first step in saying or gathering information from persons within the community.
Okay, so this was a 5-day workshop.
Yes, it was.
And I know you probably learned or did different things every day, but take us through a typical day.
A typical day one, the islands every day, well, let's start with day one. Each island had to give a presentation as to what they have done. That's one thing with UNESCO cluster office and also that of the Netherlands. I can mention that the Netherlands, the Ministry of Education there, they have also provided the funding that allow us to have this training. So each island had to state what they have done within the year time that we have met, and also to propose or to share what we will be doing, as the process continues. So that was shared on day one. Also on day one started the process of the facilitators showing us what a nomination looks like. From day two and day three, then they started the process of having us working on a nomination. So we had to first identify a particular intangible cultural heritage that the Dutch Kingdom all of us consider to be a shared heritage that we would like to see jointly nominated to UNESCO. So that took place. But then we also had the opportunity for us to identify intangible cultural heritage from each of our islands, which we consider as being worthy enough to have it submitted to UNESCO. And I have to say for St. Martin, we consider the Ponam dance to be St. Martin's and original to our island, and that is one of the intangible cultural heritage elements that we consider worthy of a possible UNESCO nomination. So that took place on the second day and the third day. The fourth and the fifth day now, we went out to the field, meaning we got to see aspects of Banier's cultural heritage. So that is also a vital part of the training. We need to also see and experience the cultural heritage of the country itself, of Banier. And then by the last day, we had to present the nomination that we have been working on from the second and third day.
Okay. This, as I understand it, was the second phase or the second part of
the training.
Of the training. Can you take us back a little bit to the first part and what that was about?
Sure. The first training took place way back, I believe in either 2013. So there are many different phases of the training that has taken place. 2013, I believe, or even 12, there was an introduction as to what is intangible cultural heritage, and that took place in Aruba. And then from Aruba, that was presented. It was something new to the various islands, and that was brought forward by the Netherlands, and they also proposed that they will be providing the funding to allow the different islands to, start that inventorizing process of finding out what it is for them. So that took place in Aruba. Then the other phase of the training took place on St. Martin. That was way back in 2014. And when I'm talking about the jumping from Aruba to St. Martin, I'm talking about the joint trainings when we had all of the various islands together.
That brings us to the end of this edition of 30 Minutes with Government. For video on demand, be sure to visit the official website of the Government of St. Martin at stmartingov.org. My name is Giselle Misudan York, and on behalf of all of us here at the Department of Communication, we'll see you next time.